Hey YouTube. So it's almost dark already. Just came in from bringing a couple buckets of coal in. And my wife and I were again at the store today, which I hate going shopping, but because driving her Chevy Blazer, now my pickup trucks don't do this for some reason, but they're all tied up. One's got a plow on, the other one's got the coal on. So I didn't use the trucks, but her Chevy Blazer, and I like the Blazer because it's really got, it's lasted us a long time. And the problem is, there's something wrong with the seat on it, and the seat, not that it's wrong, I should say there's something wrong with the seat for me, because it presses on one of my legs and a nerve, and it goose up my leg, and it makes me limp worse than I already do. But anyway, I had gotten a comment, or let me tell you about the weather here first too. We had a dusting of snow last night, north central Pennsylvania. That was it. Tonight we're supposed to get another dusting, but I got to tell you, it feels like it's going to rain because it's just about 34, 35 degrees. So I don't know what it's going to do. And this weather's been unbelievable. Alright, so with that said, we went to the store to pick up some of those mini blinds. My wife uses them on our windows. And what happened was the ones in the bedroom, we have 4 in our bedroom because there's 4 windows in there. And they kind of disintegrate after 15, 20 years. So we've been here for almost 20 years, and she was going to wash them. She had them all set up to wash, and I says to her, let's throw them away and get new ones. So we went down and picked up the new ones. Now they're a little different nowadays. I don't know whether you know that or not, but instead of using a rope to pull them up and down, it's kind of like a automatic placement thing where you can just pull it like a shade and it'll go up so far and stuff. I don't know how good they are because I haven't tried one yet, but I'm going to try one, see how it works out. But anyway, I had gotten a bunch of responses to things on the last couple of videos I made, and the one I got, I have to tell you about, I think is utterly ridiculous. The guy's a fool. Even though he's an engineer, he's a fool. The point is that he said to me, oh, I'm not here to watch learning lessons about life. I'm not here to teach learning lessons about life. Not once did I tell someone what they ought to do. I said what might be nice, or what people may have to do to make things a little better. Of course, he's not interested in that, and said goodbye to my channel. I say goodbye, good riddance, good luck, whatever you need to make it in life, go find it somewhere else. I find that when I'm on a channel that I don't like, if I go like this to the next channel, I find something that I do like. I don't expect everybody to like my channel. If they did, I'd have 1 billion viewers. I have less than, or I think I have a little over 8,000 viewers. That's it. So it's not like it's, you know, everybody's on my side, and I'm not looking for that. I'm just looking to, you know, to relate to people. I live out in the middle of nowhere. There's nobody else to talk to, and this is how I talk to people. So anyway, goodbye, have a nice time, and I hope you find what you're looking for. Okay, so, and the reason I have to say he's a fool is because he tried to make me feel bad in a sense, and that doesn't work for me. Okay, I'm too old for that. You can go back to school and use that on your students, but don't use it for me. It doesn't work. Alright, so anyway, that's enough of that. So somebody had said to me something about, you know, telephones and stuff. Let me tell you, in January, a track phone, and, you know, I'm not saying track phone is a great thing or not a good thing. I'm just saying, I was in the dollar store one day because my wife says to me, go there to buy this certain kind of cleaner. So when I was in the dollar store, like 15 years ago we're talking, they had cell phones there for $15. I says to her, you know what, I'm going to buy 2 of them, because how bad can this be? If the cell phone lasts you a month, $15 is, you know, there's nothing to it. Let me tell you something. I bought those cell phones in 2016, or no, 2006. The cell phones just got thrown away yesterday, and they were not, I did not change the battery on them, ever. Both cell phones, hers and mine. And they were both the same. It's a little flip thing. Couldn't do nothing else but make a phone call with it, and that's all we needed it for. I just needed mine for emergencies. never really used it a lot. I had 3,500 minutes on it, not phone minutes, but what do you call that? Days in reserve or something. I'm not sure how it worked, but anyway, that's what I had. So they put them on my new phone, and they also did the same thing with my wife's new phone. So anyway, we're fooling around trying to find out how to use these smartphones. Now, before you go crazy, I'm 65 years old, but let me just tell you something. I taught all kind of computer classes in college. I taught how to use computers to help you in construction work. And I also taught AutoCAD in my own business to people, as well as teaching other businesses, workers, how to use AutoCAD. So I'm not, technologically unsavvy, but let me put it to you like this. Here's where I am savvy. I just bought 2 cell phones for my wife and I. They're smartphones. They message, they email on 2 different things, Gmail and also regular email. And you can also message, like I said, I think I said message. You can send pictures and all kinds of other stuff. They do basically everything that a smartphone does without pushing all kinds of buttons. I don't know if you remember when the first smartphones came out, they had a whole telegraph there that you had to, click on to get all your letters and everything, where now you just kind of push buttons and do a minimum of typing. Before you had to type everything. So I used to have a smartphone when I was teaching so that I could, correct news or papers and send grades back to the school and to the student, so it would, work good for me. And having a smartphone was good for me as a teacher because I could connect to a lot of people in a lot of ways driving home. I just would hang it on a hanger, dial who I needed to dial, and talk to them while I was driving up the thruway. But anyhow, let me just say this to you. It's one thing to need to be in business and need technology. And technology is good and it will save you wasted money in some things. If you buy technology and you pay a lot of money for it, you're foolish today. Now let me give you an example why I'm saying that. Back in the 1970s, when I was in business for myself, late 70s, I had bought an Apple II computer. And I got to tell you, I paid $25,000 for the setup. So it was a monitor, the computer the keyboard and stuff, the computer, a bunch of floppy disks. I think they were small and big floppy disks. I don't even remember the size of them anymore. Plus a printer and stuff like that. The printer barely ever worked. It could never talk to the Apple computer, but when it did, it printed fine. The only thing is, it was a dot matrix at the time, which kind of didn't look too professional, but it was straight, it was square, it was, when you had all the typing done and the words were spelled right, everything looked good. So back in those times, I had bought that computer, and I found out that it was good for doing, we had in the computer was Lotus 1-2-3. So in the computer, and Lotus 1-2-3 is like Office. Think of Office, Microsoft Office. So it could do math problems, you could set up spreadsheets, it could do any kind of typing, and then it had a, what do you call that thing? I can't even think of the name of it. Where you put information in, you can save it. I can't remember the name of the what you call that, but anyway, you would put information in, like you could save a bunch of all the students' information, grades, stuff like that. You could save that information, and then you could transfer it, move it, grasp it, type up. You could say send an email to this many people, that many people. It was really nice. I like that about the technology. But for 25 grand, I got taken for a freaking ride, I got to tell you. But it was a business thing, and it did cut out the secretarial work. So in other words, my secretary could learn how to do some more needed work rather than just type. Okay, like I needed her to help me do some, make a lot of phone calls. I needed her to find equipment for me. I needed her to do stuff like that, that she couldn't do when she was typing out a 12-page contract. The nicest thing about the printers and stuff back then, or I should say the computer, is that I could print out a 12-page contract, letter perfect, and all we had to do was write the people's name in. So it was really nice for that, and I liked the technology because of that. So that saved a lot of work. I never sat down after the first time we printed that thing out. I never sat down and went over it again except to look at the page that had the amounts in it and the names of the people. Other than that, I just would look at that. As long as the amount's right, the people right, the dates are right, sign it, I'm done. You know, so that was nice. That I liked about it. But the price, I got ripped off. So let's move a little bit forward here now. I told you the story about the $15 telephone, and I had for, 15, 20 years, 15 years. Let me just tell you about the smartphone. I had bought a smartphone with one of the big V people, and I swear the battery would go dead on it every 6 weeks. Every 6 weeks I'm sending $150 to these crazy people to send me a battery for this stupid phone. And I really was upset with this phone, especially when I knew that the other phone that I had was so much more capable of making telephone calls without losing anything on the battery. So, alright, I went through that thing with that phone, went through the, the years that I was teaching with it, and I used it. I managed to find different places to buy cheaper batteries. Okay, so then Apple comes out with their telephones. Okay, so the first thing I bought from Apple was an Apple iPod. And I have to tell you that I really like the iPod, especially if you have a Wi-Fi. And using the iPod at home was great because you could message with it. You could iMessage, you could see the person when you were talking to them, whatever they call that, FaceTime. You could also, do a bunch of other stuff on it, but you couldn't really easily move files around in it. So I didn't like it because of that. So I bought since I bought that iPod, I have bought, I bought myself one iPod. I used it until it sort of died out from whatever. But my wife likes iPods, so I bought her 1, 2, 3 iPods she's had. And because we're out in the middle of nowhere here, we can't get phone service anyway too well, we just use the iPhone or the iPod off of the Wi-Fi, and that worked for us. And we have a telephone, we get incoming calls. So that all worked pretty good, and they didn't have a problem with that. But when it came to my wife, the kids were saying, "Oh, you should have a phone, Mom. You should have an iPhone. You should have an iPhone." Well, just because we have the money to buy an iPhone don't mean we're buying an iPhone, because to me that is a waste of money. I already wasted money on the 25 grand computer in the beginning of this technological revolution. But anyway, I wanted to see what was out there. So we hung on to our phones and Sally's iPod for quite a while, maybe 5 years. So now it comes to the time where they say, okay, TracFone saying we no longer can use that phone, you have to get a smartphone. Alright, so I chucked the phone, bought a smartphone. I bought 2 smartphones. Sally's was on Christmas Eve, I bought hers, gave it to her for Christmas. That TracFone was $14, or no, $19. $19. And it had everything in it, a charger, it had in it whatever it needed to make it go. All you did was have to buy the card with it. I bought a $50 card that's good for 1 year, I believe it is. I think it's a year. And it had like 500 minutes in it. And she really won't use up that many minutes. Now, sometimes she does, most of the time she doesn't. If she wants to, she can just buy more minutes, but Sally's kind of like me, thrifty and doesn't want to waste the money for nothing. So anyway, we got these phones, and like I said, it was $19. Hers was $19, mine was $29. Because I should have bought 2 at the time, but I bought 1 before Christmas. It was a sale, and mine was after Christmas, and it was not a sale. So it ended up where that's how I bought the 2 phones. Alright, so I've been looking at these phones, checking my phone out, and I still don't have phone service here with it. I gotta go, 2 miles down the road or a mile down the road or on top of a tree somewhere to get a really good signal that I can make a telephone call. However, the Wi-Fi on it is fantastic. does the same thing iPod does, only better. And the reason I say better is it accepts any file. You can open up almost any file it's sent to you, PDF files, files from Microsoft Office. It opens up Lotus. It does all kinds of stuff that'll open files that I could not do with an Apple thing. So, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Apple can't do it, I just couldn't do it with the Apple stuff we had. And I didn't want to trust that to anything. So, you know, that's the story with the technology. It's not that I don't like technology and I don't think people should have a phone. I don't think people should spend $700 for a phone or even $200 a phone. And the way things are right now, even $100 for a phone is way too much money. You know, I remember when I had in my business, and I had one of the first telephones that I knew of that anybody had in my truck. And I got to tell you, it used to cost me almost a grand a month to use that telephone in my truck. The first time I bought it, it was $1 to make the call a minute and $1 for them to call you. So it was $2 a minute it cost me to use that telephone. And you don't realize, okay, $2 a minute doesn't sound like much. Well, I only got to make a 5-minute call. But you're making a 5-minute call 50 times a day, and that is no good. So I ended up, you know, scrapping that phone. But by that time, I had gotten a bag phone, which was a little better. You only paid one way, like, you know, you paid to make the call. You didn't pay to get the call back. The other person paid for it. And that's when people started to really get cell phones. I mean, I used to have a cell phone in the very beginning that you had to wait. It would say there was a green light and a red light on a Bell Princess phone. It was a big regular telephone on the floor of the car. And it would tell you green was you could use it, red was it was busy. So you actually had to wait for the other person to get off the line. Now you couldn't hear them on there, but the line was being used up. That was from, just to give you an idea, that referenced Allentown, Pennsylvania. So I lived near there, and that was good for me to be able to get, you know, the calls and stuff that I needed. And it didn't cost as much money as what the, I forget the name of the company that I bought that cell phone from, the one that was in my truck. But anyway, after the regular cell phones started coming out, the price wasn't so bad on them. Okay, I mean, a lot of people huffed and barked at $100 or $200 for a phone, but after I had paid $3 grand for a phone for 1 month, and I had to pay $1,000 to have the phone installed and get the phone, that changed everything. But now that was a regular telephone though too. Like you had the cradle set, you know, you could plug it into the ceiling of the truck. So that actually was pretty nice. It was a nice, better phone than these little things you're trying to hold and talk into at the same time. I actually liked that type of phone. I still like a regular telephone compared to, you know, the phones you have now. Now that's not to say that they're not good, as they're not to say that they don't work good. I'm just saying I like having the big cradle phone because you can hold it like this. You try holding your flat phone like that, unless you're maybe real thin or, you know, you got a lot more movement than me, you can hardly hold it. Okay, so let's get to the part where what do I not like about phones and kids. When I had a cradle phone that I would carry around or give to somebody to use or whatever, one of my daughters used the phone, and I gotta tell you, she went crazy with that phone. She was talking on that phone all through the freaking night. And we just could not have this. It was, you know, keeping her up at night and everything else. And she's still a crazy person with a telephone. She has an iPhone right now, and she's always calling out with it. You know, she has all kind of things going on with it. She plays with it, on it, or whatever. And I'm just saying that, you know, is how that particular person is. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody has to be like that. If I, who know the technology, I know more about the technology than she does. If I who know the technology of it, can buy a phone for $19 or $29.99 and make it work good for me, what do I need a $900, $700, $200 phone for? I don't. All right, so let me get to this part about the kids quick. When you give a telephone to a little kid, so and your reason is so that you can call them and make sure where they are, that's a lot of nonsense. Well, you're better off just going and finding where they are if you can't trust your kid. And I have to tell you that I have heard in college a lot of kids talking to their parents, and all they did was lie to them. They lied to them about where they were going to be at night, where they were the night before, you know, what kind of grades they had, what kind of subjects they had, what kind of homework they had. They lied to them because we as teachers could not give the information to the parents. It was a shame. The parents were paying the bill. I remember one grandfather, he was paying for his son to go through class to a 4-year degree, and the kid was worthless. He just wasn't doing the work. All he cared about was going out at night. And what happened was, I had heard him say, and the reason I knew that his grandfather was paying it, I had heard him say to one of the kids, "Oh, well, what I'll do is I'll get my grandfather to pay for books, and then I'll take the books back and get my money back." That's what they're doing. So let me just get to the part now about the phone. As far as telephones, and that should be a wake-up call for all you guys paying your student loans. Not the student. I'm not talking about a good student who's trying to pay his way through college. I'm talking about kids who are using their grandparents' money, hard-earned money, and their parents' money to waste their way through college. Alright, so anyway, let me get to the thing with the phone. When you give little kids a phone, that's a mistake. You should know that. It's one thing to buy them some kind of game that they can play, but when you give them a telephone, don't you realize what you're doing? You're unraveling their life into all kind of other places. And all you have to do is have them get a telephone call from some knucklehead that just dials numbers trying to find somebody he can scam, and the first thing they do is find the kids. Next thing you know, the kids are giving your freaking credit card numbers over to somebody because you're letting them do everything they want, including go in your purse or your wallet. So I am against that. The other thing is kids in school. They take their cell phones and they use that cell phone in school as if they were the President of the United States. You would think that their phone call coming into them is so important that there's no other way for them to exist except to get the phone call. When all you have to do is call the school, tell the secretary at the school, please give this message to so-and-so, and they'll deliver the message. Just like that to your kid. Whether it's in college or in grade school, they'll give the kid the message. But it just doesn't seem like people today care enough to be able to do things like this. They're too stupid. They get a message, oh, I have a message for somebody, it's important. Next thing you know, they're drinking coffee and having a donut and forgetting about the message. Or they're walking from A to B and they lose the message. That's how bad things are. So when we were kids, and I told you this the other day, I would say to Sally, hey, you know, what do you need at the store? Anything at the store on my way home? Yeah, here's what I need. Okay, on my way home I'll get this. I didn't have a cell phone at the time. And I sure as heck didn't use a cell phone for store notes when they were $1 a minute coming and going. So, okay, so now it's a little bit better because of people like me who paid all them high prices, and it's not just me, I'm not saying only me, but us in those generations who, you know, influenced the popularity of the cell phone by buying them and helping pay the bills on time. You know, we helped those companies to grow and to be able to get somewhere and pay for things. I mean, yes, I, you know, had accounts, or not accounts, I had stock in some of the technology companies, and it paid in the long run to have that. But that's not the point. The point is if somebody doesn't have that, and they're paying out these big numbers for stuff, it's just way too much money. So, you got the thing with little kids, you know, giving away information they couldn't give away, or getting in trouble in the way they shouldn't. You got kids nowadays who are taking pictures of their private parts, sending them to their freaking girlfriends who are anywhere between the ages of freaking 12, okay, and 50 or older. People are nutty today. That's something that shouldn't be being done. It's morally wrong to do this kind of stuff, yet people will fight me over that, and they'll want to say, no, you should be able to do whatever you want to do. It's only between the two of us. No, it's not. When that thing goes across the lines, think of it like this. Back in the war, the Germans would talk to their other Germans, and the English and Americans would get their messages, figure out what the message said, and they had the information. That's what happens today. Anybody can steal pictures that are going over the internet. They can steal and listen to telephone calls. Did you ever pick up your phone, go to make a call, and hear someone else talking? There's a way to do this, and people who know how to set their phones and stuff up can do this. So, if you're somebody who's not responsible, that's what I'm against. It's not against technology itself, even at 65. It's against the people who use technology falsely, like sending pictures of body parts, sending grade test information. I had kids already. I used to tell them, there's the box. When you come into the class, put your cell phone in the box. If you don't get it on the way out, that's not my problem, but you're putting it in the box here. The reason I started doing that was because they'd come into the class, they'd have the cell phone, I'd give Class A a test, Class B was going to get basically the same test. Guess what? A is telling B the answers to the freaking test before I even get started with this. So, that's no good either, that cheating and stuff. So that's my reasons for not using the technology, or not wanting kids to have the technology. I don't think the part about, like, oh, I need to know where my kid is. You're not going to know where they are, because all they do is lie to you. But if the kid's not lying to you and you're using the phone for that and they're honestly answering you and telling you the truth about stuff, great. Then that's working really well, so you can hang on to that. But I gotta tell you, after being in college and seeing how the 20-year-olds are handling stuff, I would say that anywhere from 18 to 22, 23 years old, I would say you're looking at 20% of the kids were honest. The rest of them were cheating on their test scores, cheating when it came to their parents, and trying to cheat their way through not paying somehow for something. I'm sorry to tell you, that's how bad it is. Okay? So you can take that for what it's worth, but if you're a grandparent or whatever, you might be better off, instead of sending your kid, the kid you need to send through college to get the degree, wait till he gets a degree and then works in it for a while. Let him work to get his degree. And then after he gets it, then help him buy something, like maybe a new car so he can get to work, or a new computer so that something like that would be better than what you're doing. Because I've seen kids who their grandparents and parents buy them brand new laptops, leave them lay, forget whose they are. Cell phones, I must have had 3 cell phones every day laying somewhere in the classroom. Kids would forget them, they'd walk away from them, they don't know where they are. That's the reason why I don't think technology should be in the hands of kids. It's about the only reason. And that's why they started locking the phones. The first cell phones that we had were not locked. You couldn't lock the cell phone that I had in the ceiling of my truck. You couldn't lock it. Now you might be able to, shut it off or turn it on, but you could not lock that phone like you can lock the new phones that we have now so that someone cannot use it. That is a shame. It's theft that we're trying to fight. Okay, so here we are in the new technological age, and we're still having to fight theft from even kids, little kids. So guys, you asked my opinion about that, so that's what it is. If you disagree with that stuff, let me know. I'll, tell you whatever I think about it, or whatever I feel with it, but I've just had enough problem with kids and phones where I don't think kids should have phones unless they're responsible. If they're responsible, they're going to handle the phone responsibly, that's a different story. But to do what they're doing today with cell phones and stuff is nothing more than a joke. So, alright guys, well have a good one, and thanks for watching. Bye.